Premier League is reaching the point of no return. That's for those like Arsenal and Manchester City who aspire to winning it, and for, I think, 5 clubs at the bottom now who could go down. 3 of them will go down: Leicester, Leeds, Notts Forest, Everton and Southampton. And there is another equally important contest to finish in the top 4 and qualify for the Champions League next season. So there's such a lot to play for these days that the season doesn't taper off near the end. There are so many things that matter so much to players, supporters, and of course to the treasurers of the club. And we're joined now by John Giles and Liam Brady to talk about the games at the weekend. And some of them were fascinating. Liam, I'll just start with you. Arsenal went to Newcastle United, who are just behind them in 3rd place and have had a good season. I thought they played really well, but more importantly, what did you think?
Well, I was a little bit frightened, Eamon, about the fixture because I saw Newcastle blow Tottenham away. You know, there were 6 up in 20 minutes, and St James's Park is alive and kicking at the moment. The fans are really behind the team. Work Eddie Howe's done. And they started off that way, didn't they, Newcastle?
They come out of the traps, big time.
Yeah, and they hit the post, and they had a couple of chances that, you know, Arsenal managed to scramble away. I would have said Arsenal had a wee bit of luck in that first 10, 12 minutes. But then they began to gradually get into the game. Obviously, Odegaard's shot that went in was a big lift to them. And for the first time in a while, I saw them really dig in, Eamon.
Yes.
And denied space to Newcastle and work hard and not do silly things defensively. And they were always dangerous on the break. And they got another goal in the second half when Cher put through his own net. So I thought Arsenal deserved it. They had some very good chances in the first half. Pope made some very good saves. And it was a really good win. And they've bounced back really well with beating Chelsea during the week and then Newcastle at the weekend to keep the Premiership alive.
Yes.
Just about.
Yeah, I think it is very much alive, John. Manchester City are a point ahead and they have a game in hand. But when you look at the run-in, I think City have a harder run-in. Arsenal have Brighton at home, Notts Forest away and Wolves at home. City have Chelsea at home, Brighton away and Brentford away. The last 2 games are away. So it's a kind of knife-edge situation. But let's go back to yesterday, John, because we were talking during the game and you were very impressed, as I was, with the energy that Newcastle showed and the commitment, as Liam referred to, very early in the game. But Arsenal stood up to them.
Well, they certainly did. I mean, you know, they were the better team over the 90 minutes. And it was a very, very good professional performance from Arsenal. You know, Xhaka wasn't getting up to any tricks. Gabriel wasn't getting up. They just got on with the game, as you should do. And it looked a really, really good team. You know, to go to Newcastle and play the way they played was really, really good. So, you know, from the manager's point of view, it was a disciplined performance. Ramsdale played well in goal, didn't give anything away. So you couldn't ask any more from them, Eamon. And they're still in the hunt. You know, they're still there. They're keeping at City. So they can't do any more than they're doing at the moment. And it's well done.
You've often been there with Leeds in tight championships when Liverpool or Manchester United, whoever it was, you've been in this situation, few games to go, and I'm sure you've been in a situation equivalent to what City and Arsenal are in. City have an extra game and Arsenal are a point behind. But it does matter who you're playing and it does matter what's in your head. And one of the things that's very much in City's head, I'll ask you and Liam this, is tomorrow night's fixture, semi-final of the Champions League, first leg away to Real Madrid. That's a huge deal, I know. But being 1 point behind at the other club having a game in hand, it's not a done deal or anything like that, is it?
No, well, you don't think it's a done deal, Eamon. You know, to be honest, when you're in that situation, you don't think about the Champions League match as another match, hard match. You just go from one match to the next. That's the only way you can do it. So, you know, I wouldn't worry about if you have the right players and the right attitude. Then, of course, like in the Leeds situation, some we won, some we lost. I mean, but it wasn't for doing anything in a different way.
No,
you know, like every match is like I think in City's situation at the moment, I'd say Guardiola said, don't be worried about their performances or their win. What we like in City's case at the moment, if they do what they should do or could do, it doesn't matter what Arsenal does, Eamon.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the attitude you have to have when you're in this. And sometimes you get a break. You know, at one time we were going for the league and Arsenal, I think, played at Liverpool or Liverpool away, whatever. But anyway, they beat them unexpectedly.
I remember that, yeah.
And we won it, you know. We were celebrating next morning. But you have to keep it, like, Arsenal at the moment are doing very, very well. Our attitude is good. They're keeping the pressure on Man City. They're doing the best that they can do. Man City will be in the same boat, Eamon.
Yeah.
Now they'll be saying, well, I don't care. We've no control over what Arsenal does. We've control over what we can do ourselves. That's the attitude you have to have. Both teams have in this situation.
Yeah, Liam, you've been in championship winning teams, Juventus, and teams that challenged in England. Your own view of this, I mean, in particular, having a game in hand and being 1 point ahead, you're only one defeat away, in my view, from the picture changing dramatically, aren't you?
Yeah, well, you know, Arsenal have to win all their remaining games, Eamon, the three remaining games they have. And you've got to hope Manchester City drop, 5 points, which I find it difficult to see happening, to be quite honest. You know, they have Everton next weekend.
Yeah, this day week actually. Yeah.
Yeah, you're only hoping there that their minds might be on the second leg of the Real Madrid match, but we'll see about that tomorrow night when they play Real Madrid in the first leg. But I think City are a well-oiled machine, Eamon. They've got a tremendous squad of players, and they can substitute people and change games and things like that. I just feel you think it's a hard run in. I'm not too sure. I think City will handle it, to be quite honest. I'm glad Arsenal won the last two games, obviously, because it keeps the league season going for everyone, and that's what everybody wants. The Premier League is the most brilliant league in the world because, as you mentioned, Eamon, you've got a race for the top four. You've got teams trying to avoid relegation, and it seemingly goes right to the end of the season, which is very exciting for all football fans. But I do think Manchester City have a huge advantage and will do it.
Okay, Liam. Now let's move on, John, to Leeds, Manchester City. Manchester City, Leeds. Sam Allardyce brought in to do the job at Leeds with 4 games to go. True to form, he said that he thought he was every bit as good as Pep Guardiola, as Mikel Arteta, and as Jurgen Klopp. And he said there was no doubt about that. I don't think that's a view you share, but I mean, you have a big graw for Leeds. It's your club. It wouldn't have gladdened your heart, would it, to see Sam walk through the doors?
No, too mouthy, Eamon. To be competing your self-praise is no recommendation, Eamon. It's an old saying.
It is.
And to be saying straight away, I'm up there with Pep and I do this and I do that. He never won anything when he was a manager.
No.
In fact, he was sacked a few times. Anyway, but that's dead and gone. But that's all mouth, Eamon. You just have to get on with the job. He's got a difficult job to do. There's no doubt about that. And I mean, it could have been on watching a match on Saturday. It could have been anything when he played. I thought City were very good in doing what they had to do when the team is backing up against you all the time. They went 2 in front, and then they made a big mistake with the penalty.
Yes,
I don't think penalty taker should be the penalty taker regardless of the score. Eamon, not giving somebody a hat trick or whatever it is. That's the professional way of doing it, in my opinion. And then they had a scary finish because Leeds unexpectedly scored, and but it wasn't a match like that. City were well in control of it up to that stupid mistake that they made, and from Leeds' point of view, the score could have been anything, really, and it's changed it totally. See, the Leeds under Bielsa was attack against. Didn't matter who they played, it was attack. Now, in this situation, I know it's a different situation in many ways. It's defence.
Yeah.
And they've never been noted for their defence, Leeds. They've been noted for having the courage to go at the opposition. So overall, I think that the last 10 minutes actually was a false impression of the match, to be quite honest. Yeah. From Leeds' point of view. They were under the cosh. They got a goal, made it 2-1, but they didn't look like at any stage as if they were going to challenge City. So I know it's a difficult match to go, but I think he will he will concentrate on defending now.
Yeah.
And that's against the Leeds policy over the last, since Bielsa's been there.
Yeah, Pep Guardiola had a go at Haaland, who gave the ball to Gundogan, who was on a hat-trick. It was a generous gesture, and it actually backs up the impression he's given everybody, really, Haaland, that he's a very nice, modest young man. But Pep gave him a right bollocking from the touchline afterwards, saying, "You take it." Yeah. And we were talking about that yesterday, and you told me about a situation you got into at Leeds United when you were there, when you were the penalty taker. I think it'd be nice to tell Liam and our listeners what you did when you were 6-0 up and you got a penalty.
Well, I honestly don't believe, Eamon, that there's a certain time. If you're a penalty taker, you're a penalty taker. And you have to take it in the good days and the bad days, where it's an easy one or it's not. But it's a very, very professional situation, in my opinion. If you're a penalty taker, you take the penalties.
Yep.
And I think that went against City because he was being nice, Eamon.
Yes.
Well, in professional football, as we know, you were a professional, Liam was a professional, I was a professional. But being nice is not always the right thing to do.
No.
Being bad is sometimes the right thing to do. So I think Haaland. Now, he was responsible for it, but it should have been the manager's position over the last 2 or 3 years. A penalty taker, regardless of the score, takes the penalties. No, give it the hat-tricks. You have to take it, and that's it.
So tell me how you slapped Albert Johansson around.
Well, no, we were playing in a match we were winning 6-0, and we got a penalty. And Albert Johansson was on a hat-trick. And the crowd obviously were chanting for Albert Johansson take the hat-trick, take the penalty. And I said, no, I'm taking the penalty. I'm the penalty taker. I take the penalty.
Right.
And the crowd, I think, never liked me ever after that. That's what I believed in.
Yeah.
If you're the penalty taker, it's penalty, regardless of who it is. You take it in the good days, you take it in the bad days. And it really went against City. Well, as we know, he missed a penalty, and then they scored, and it's all nervous again.
Yeah.
But I think it flattered Sam Allardyce in the score, to be quite honest. It was a mistake that City made, a big mistake, Eamon. And it shouldn't happen. If you're the penalty taker, you're the penalty taker. And it shouldn't be up to, and I think what Guardiola's saying, it's not up to you to give him the ball.
Right. Liam, are you surprised by that story about John?
No. It's something similar happened to me in Turin. Eamon, playing for Juventus. We were winning 1-0 against Torino in a local derby, a big match. And it came to the last minute. The game was nearly over, and we got a penalty. And I was the penalty. I went to the taker, and Roberto Bettiga said, "No, I'm taking it." Yeah. And I said, "Why?" Well, he said, I'm centre forward. I need to score a goal. And I said, "No, you're not taking it." And he put his arms out, and everyone could see he was unhappy that I took the spot kick, and then I missed it. Yeah. And I went into the dressing room afterwards, and I said, "I missed that because of you. You shouldn't be putting pressure on me. You won't take them when there's really something on it.
Yeah.
When the game is in the balance, you won't be stepping forward to take it. So it was a big row in the dressing room." And I agree with John. If you're the penalty taker, you're the penalty taker. In the last game of the championship with Juventus,
yes.
I took the penalty.
I know.
And won it. But I wasn't delegated to take that penalty. Somebody had been substituted that was to take it, but there wasn't many takers from the Juventus.
Was that fella there, Liam, that you mentioned? Did he want to take it?
Well, he wasn't playing in the game, John.
Oh,
I
okay.
doubt if he would have done. Yeah.
No, but
nobody queuing up to take it, Liam.
No, exactly. When there's something, the game can be on it. They're nowhere to be seen. So, but I think the episode yesterday or Saturday was different, and it was Haaland who was suggesting him to take it. If Haaland had just taken the ball and put it down, I don't think Gundogan would have said, "Oh, let me take it."
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure Haaland said take it because we're going to win this game about 6 or 7 the way it was looking.
Yes.
I should say that the penalty you took was in your last game for Juventus because you were leaving the club, because in those days they were only allowed one foreigner in Italy, and it was very courageous. Took a lot of bottle, loads of it, and you did it. And I know you're remembered.
Well, I'm not saying it for that, Eamon.
I know you're not. But
like John, when you're the penalty taker, you've got to assume responsibility in all the scenarios.
Yes. No, I know you're not saying it for that reason, but it's nice to let our listeners know, particularly our younger listeners, that you guys were in the war. Just one final point, John and Liam, maybe about Big Sam. He can't take Sammy Lee with him, who he usually does, because Sammy's on jury duty. So the judge wouldn't let him go. So he's taken Robbie Keane with him. And Robbie's a bit of an operator. He's got a very good 250 grand a year contract with the FAI, who tried to foist him on Stephen Kenny, and Stephen rightly wouldn't have it. The other thing I want to ask you about is the UEFA Council of Wise Men. There is such a thing called the UEFA Council of Wise Men, and Robbie Keane is on that as well. So he's having a nice career without really putting much at risk.
What did the wise men do, Eamon? I've never heard of that before.
No, I never heard of it until yesterday. I read it in the Sunday Times in a piece about Robbie. And I think what the wise men, well, you look at what UEFA does, and then look at the wise men, and you put 2 and 2 together and you come up with 17. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. Sorry.
Yeah, well, good luck to Robbie. I've never heard of it before, Eamon.
Right.
Like I know he's got a proper job now at Leeds to try and save them beyond the end of the season, and I'm sure he's going to be concentrating on that. Of course, he played for Leeds, Eamon.
I know he did. Yes, of course he did. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Liam, the match last night, West Ham Manchester United. There is quite a lot on that for West Ham. They won the game and managed to get themselves out of the relegation zone. In my opinion, they're not in danger now. For Manchester United, this defeat means their Champions League position, which it looked guaranteed, but now they're a point ahead of Liverpool with a game less played. Actually, it's the same as it is in the top. And Brighton have 2 games in hand of Manchester United, and I think they have to play each other. United look awful last night, Liam. Did you watch it?
Yes, I watched it, yeah. Well, they haven't been good for the last month or so, have they?
No.
The defeat against Seville was severe. Against West Ham, they only fleetingly look like scoring. They've only scored 49 goals when you think Manchester City have scored 89. Arsenal have scored
49.
83. It's and I think on the face of it, it looks a decent season for Manchester United. It will be a decent season if they finish in the top 4.
Yes.
But they're wobbling at the moment, a bit like Arsenal did last year, and Liverpool are coming with a run. That was the 6th consecutive league victory for Liverpool yesterday.
Yeah.
Not yesterday, the day before. And, they're on a run. And, Manchester United will be looking over their shoulders a bit fearful because they don't look to be able to score. Who was it they played during the week? I can't recall, but they lost 1-0 as well, didn't they? Brighton beat them, Eamon. Brighton beat them in the last minute.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. And Brighton deserved it, by the way.
I watched the match, actually. They were very good.
VAR decision. But that's no points, no goals in 2 games. And Liverpool on a run, I'd be frightened if I was a Man United supporter that they might not make the top 4.
Yeah, and Brighton are also in that mix. They've got 2 games in hand of United, and in fact Brighton have 3 games in hand.
They play Everton. Brighton play Everton tonight at the Amex, and if they win that, it puts them a bit closer. Brighton are not saying too much about the Champions League, but I'm sure in the dressing room and in the manager's head, they're looking above them and saying, we've got a lot of games in hand here, we can do it, Yeah. It's very exciting, really. But to go back to Man U, I'd be interested to hear what John's got to say about them.
John?
Well, I haven't been convinced by them and by the manager. I think he's improved them. He's definitely improved them. But with the talent that they have, they should be playing better than they have. And I think the last few matches have been really poor. They haven't been convincing in a way that you would say they've come on leaps and bounds since the managers took over. It seems to be go and then stop and go backwards. There's no consistency about them, and they haven't been really, really, really good.
They've got injuries to defenders. The 2 central defenders are injured. The first choice central defenders, and they're struggling there. He's put Shaw in, and I don't think Shaw is a central defender really.
No, but Maguire's on the bench, Eamon.
Yeah, it's an incredible snub really to the club captain, record signing and all of that. But they're in danger now, and Liam, they need to get in the Champions League, don't they? Because it gives them more money to spend, and if he doesn't, it'll be very hard to get the money he needs.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the League Cup, okay.
Yeah.
Would you take the League Cup in front of qualifying for the Champions League? No way in the world.
No.
So, okay, it's a trophy. It's a trophy that clubs can win because there's an awful lot of clubs not that very interested in having all those matches and going the distance in it. Only maybe the big clubs like Manchester City, Man United, all these Chelsea's, they can afford to swap people around and get the distance in the competition.
Yeah.
But, is there a Manchester United player you would put in the Man City team?
No.
There's a question.
No, there isn't. And there is a question I want to ask by you and John. I'll ask you first, Liam. Fernandes. When he came, he looked a good player and he was bright and he had a goal in him and he looked a decent player. Now he's become, he's thrown himself on the ground. He's shouting at every other player. He's club captain. He wants to take corner kicks. He wants to take throw-ins. He's faking injuries. And he's become, in my view, very unprofessional. I'm choosing my words carefully, but a pain in the arse.
Well, Eamon, John pointed this out to us about 18 months ago.
He did,
didn't like his body language. Yeah. And it's absolutely true. And to be captain and have that way about you, I don't agree with. I can't possibly agree with.
John, you spotted him early, as you usually do. You should be on the UEFA committee of wise men, actually, John. If I was speaking,
I'll have a word with Robbie about that.
Yeah. But you've spotted Fernandes really very early on.
Well, he's a very talented lad, I mean, he really is a talented lad, but it's his attitude to it.
Yeah.
He moans at the referee, moans at the players. His display at Liverpool when they were beaten, what was it, 6-0, 7-0?
7-0, yeah.
Exposed them in a big way. And,
yeah.
He went down injured and improved afterwards. Nobody touched him, and it was a disgraceful display on that day.
Yeah.
But he's still captain. He is very, very talented, but it's all about himself. He's always moaned at the referee. He's never at fault. And he certainly shouldn't be captain. A captain, if they have a proper captain there, they'd be able to get onto him and tell him to stop the nonsense. But he's the man in charge, which is making it twice as bad.
Yeah,
but
it is.
As a captain, I can't see Manchester United doing well with him as a captain. He needs somebody to control him on the pitch.
Yes, and Liam, just to underline the importance of your captain in so many respects, particularly examples and the way you talk to your colleagues and the way you are on the training ground everywhere, really. If he's a fanny merchant like this guy, it's not good, is it?
No, you have to be calm. You have to lead by example. You saw Messi in the World Cup, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't get involved in things. He never went down pretending he was injured. He never got involved with the referees. He just did his business, you know, game in, game out. And you know, I've played for some great captains as well. Sometimes they're not the best players, but they're the ones who can cajole people and motivate people and say, come on, you've got to pull your finger out and things like that.
Yeah.
But he can't do that, can he?
No.
Because he's not doing it himself.
So, just a final question to both of you, actually. John, the VAR situation, I'll ask you both about the same incident. The Arsenal, it was a Newcastle penalty claim early in the game. They said, I thought it looked like a penalty when it hit I thought it did hit his hand. But they said it wasn't a penalty in the end because it hit his knee first. What did you think of that decision?
Well, first of all, I'll be the same as you, Eamon. I thought it hit his hand.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that it hit his knee.
Right.
I didn't notice that. Now, whether that is the rule or not, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Well, apparently the rule, according to what they were saying, what Gary Neville and the commentator was saying, the rule is if it hits your knee first and then your hand, you're all right. I didn't know that was the rule.
No, I didn't. Well, I don't. I never knew all the rules, Eamon. But if that's the rule, if that's the rule, Eamon, well, then the VAR was correct.
Right, Liam, tell us the rule and why.
Well, you're not deemed to. It's totally accidental if the ball hits a part of your body and then goes onto your hand. You know, whereas if you stick your arm out or you have it in a way that you can block a shot and things like that, they'll give a penalty if it hits it directly. But if it hits another part of your body and then goes onto your arm or your hand, it's deemed accidental. You know,
right?
And this is one of the new rules, but it sounds to me like you had a bet on Newcastle, Eamon.
I didn't actually, and I wanted Arsenal to win because I'd like to. I think Arteta's done a really good job, but more to do. Just a final thought from both of you, John. Manchester City go to the Bernabeu tomorrow night in the Champions League semi-final first leg. There is, I think, a significant advantage in playing the first leg away from home. But leaving that aside, we all know what a terrific team Real Madrid have. What's your feeling about that match, John?
Oh, it'll be very, very close, Simon.
Yeah.
You know, to be quite honest, if Madrid beat them, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think it's a really, really hard match for Manchester City because I don't think they're doing well in the league this year, Madrid.
No.
But they'll be concentrating on this, Eamon, in a big way. You know, and we've seen the players that they have and seen what they can do. I'd say that Madrid would be favourites to win this match.
Right, okay. I mean, they're about 12, 13 points behind Barcelona, but they haven't been having a go in the league. They've been resting players and all that. Liam, it should be a fantastic tie overall. What's your feeling about it?
Well, if you were to pick one team in Europe who could beat Manchester City over two legs, you'd have to select Real Madrid.
Yes.
Because they can do it at home, they can do it away from home. They've got Modric, they've got Benzema, they've got a lot of good young players who can play really top class football, you know.
Yep.
And they showed against Manchester City, be kicking themselves they didn't knock them out last season, you know, so close. It was Courtois saved the day for Real Madrid. I think with Manchester City, they're in a better place this year, obviously, because they have Haaland up front. You know, they didn't have him last year, and he would frighten any defence. And I don't think Real Madrid's defence is that great. So I think they're slight favourites, Man City, because of Haaland.
Right. Okay, Liam and John, thanks indeed for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. Two great players, two great judges. And one day, They might be on the council of UEFA's wise men. That's all we have time for now. We're grateful to John and Liam.